Tudor Croft is a very special garden in North Yorkshire. The land was bought by Ronald Crosley, who was a third generation brick manufacturer, and being third generation the family was quite wealthy, so he found this piece of land with a trout stream running through it. It was just farmland, and decided to put a house on it, which he did, built from his own bricks naturally. Then he engaged Robert Thompson, Mouseman Thompson, to furnish a lot of the inside of the house, including the living room, which is a large room with lots of carved mice all over the place, plus the front door and various other parts of the house, and ended up with a beautiful house in the arts and crafts style. After that, he turned his attention to the garden, and he engaged Backhouses of York, who were very famous garden designers, to design a 5-acre garden using, we were told, 10,000 tons of stone. It sounds a lot, but actually when you live here as long as I've lived here, you come to realise that it's possibly true. After that, sadly, Mr. Crosley died in the 1940s, late 40s, and so then the garden became overgrown. It was a tragedy, and he probably didn't live long enough to see it in all its glory. My father bought it in 1952 and moved in with my mum and his 5 children, Anthea, the eldest, myself, Mike, Jell, who still lives here at the bottom of the garden in the gardener's cottage, Fluff and John. All of us, the 7 of us, got involved in trying to bring the garden back to some sort of order, and it took, would you believe, 10 years. We discovered the last path that was buried in 10 years later after we moved in. It was a milestone that we all remember. But it's been a joy to grow up here. It's been wonderful. There were nooks and crannies everywhere. There are waterfalls. There's a stream running through it. It had trout in those days. We used to jump across it, fall in, paddle in it, everything. There were lawns to play on. We used to ride our bikes on 2 wheels or 3 around the paths. And we just had a ball. We just had a great time as children. It was fantastic living here. It's a lovely place, and we like to share it with everybody else. My father died in 1975 and my mum in 2011, and with the sad death of my mum, who died at age 98, I inherited the garden. I knew I couldn't just maintain it and keep it as it was. I was passionate about the garden and wanted to constantly improve it, so ever since then we've worked really hard to keep moving the garden forward and keep it fresh and keep it in really good shape. And it's been you could probably say, my lifetime's work. It's been my passion. My father had, in the 1950s, started opening it. In those days you had garden parties and things like that, slightly different to today. But I know even in the 50s we had a summer ball for the Cheshire Home, and we used to have lots of Red Cross open gardens and things like that. When I sort of became more responsible for it, I felt we should try and share the garden even more. And so in the 80s we had lots of summer balls, which were fantastic. This was with an organisation called Northern Lights, which was all the people in the entertainment industry all working together to raise money for charity. And we had some fabulous balls, which included lots of bands like the Temperance 7. We had breakfast from midnight and all. That was a fantastic time of all our lives. It was amazing. And we've kept on doing that to this day. Not so much the summer balls, because they take an awful lot of organisation. But now we open the gardens on a very regular basis, usually for snowdrops in February, and in summer for people to see the garden, and people come from long distances nowadays. We've just had some parties coming up from Lincolnshire by coach. We often have visitors from Scotland and all over the country. So the garden is far better known than it was, say, in the 50s. And it deserves to be as well. It's a wonderful garden. It was only after we sold the family business in 1999 that I had more personal time to concentrate on the garden, and with that I started to collect plants from all over the world to fill the garden with and make it really interesting, but both for me because I enjoy it, but also for visitors as well. As well as that, I collected a lot of snowdrops. The garden has changed a lot because in the sort of 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, the range of plants available was limited, but this has increased exponentially since then. And now there are thousands of plants available. You can go on the internet and just about order anything if you want. And so gradually I've built up the number of plants from the range that would have been planted in the garden, which is very limited, to a really wide range of plants. And we have about 3,500 plants, all of them catalogued and all of them labelled, and that's why it sometimes gets called a botanical garden actually. That wasn't by me but by other people, because we have a huge collections of plants. In with that, the snowdrops now, we're up to about 340 different cultivars, and therefore we open in February for people to see the snowdrops, and we also open in June or July, it depends, we change it slightly each year, for everybody to see the garden in all its glory. Oh, it's great joy, but half the time I'm thinking what I need to do tomorrow. Yeah, that's how it goes. Country Life magazine said that Tudor Croft is probably the only large garden of any calibre that was built on Teesside in the 20th century, and they also said it's a very good example of a garden of its time, of the era that it was built in. Things have changed over the years. Visitors used to come and spend all day in the garden, but now they tend to come and have tea first, because we have some wonderful teas and afternoon tea in general, and all the cakes and things that go with it. And we often have entertainment on as well. So that they would tend to come here and have tea and then go around the garden and have some more tea and then go around the garden again and buy plants on the second visit very often as they go around again. And we sell huge numbers of plants because we grow lots of wonderful plants, so we're able to propagate from them. That works really well, and that helps to defray some of the enormous costs of running Tudor Croft. After we'd sold the family business and I was trying to run the garden by myself, I thought, well, how can I afford to run this garden because the costs are huge? So I decided then to start a gardening business. We're responsible for about 40 gardens. That at least gives us the income to keep Tudor Croft in good order. I absolutely love being the custodian of such a beautiful garden. It's an absolute joy. As the garden becomes better known, we see more friends and people from the horticultural trade particularly visiting the garden, and that gives me great pleasure. I love it, absolutely love it. Sourcing a plant, finding the right place to plant it, and then seeing it thrive. Especially if something is difficult to grow or rare or spectacular. And it gives me a great kick, a great joy. I absolutely love that, and that's one of the most enjoyable parts of the garden. In 2015 we started encouraging and accepting volunteers to come to Tudor Croft. We thought they would be a great help to us, but we didn't realise that it's a two-sided thing actually. It turns out we're a great help to them, because they absolutely love it. But they can come here, they can garden, they can enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, but they don't even have to be gardeners. We've gradually started accepting people who say they're not gardeners, but there's so many jobs here for those people as well. One volunteer has just built a beautiful bridge. Another volunteer does a lot of painting, and they help us with maintenance and all sorts of things. So it's just a joy, and the numbers have gradually built up. The total number on our list is nearly 20, but on an average day we'll only get 5, 6, 7. But we now accept them twice a week as well, and they have a long tea break with cakes and everything, and it's just a load of fun twice a week. So we really nowadays could not manage without them. But it's not all about getting your hands dirty, if you like. We have other volunteers who only come on open days and help us with the catering. We have a wonderful man who's been doing a moth survey since, for about 10 years anyway. Another person who comes and paints the garden, paints pictures of the garden. Again, all out of the goodness of their hearts. And it's made such a difference to us. So, can I say to all of you, thank you.